When we're thinking about how to help animals and plants and people to get through, I think Climate Refugia can be one of these ideas that we can really focus on. So Refugia are places we think that are buffered from climate change, that aren't going to change as much. And so in that way, we can focus some of our conservation and management efforts there. The Climate Refugia concept can provide some hope for folks who are feeling really overwhelmed by these dire impacts that they're seeing from climate change. We are really at the place now in the field to say, all right, let's try these concepts out on the ground. And so we have partners like at Acadia National Park, where we're actually doing these experiments out on the land, including the three-toothed cinquefoil. So that was one of the plant species that was a focus. It's a small range endemic species, and it's of ecological and cultural concern.
Here in Acadia, the national park mostly is on islands on the coast, and so our climate change refugia are right along that coastline, on some of our mountaintops, and in our lakes and wetlands. Those are the areas of the park that we expect the climate to change the most slow over the next several decades. We want to restore the vegetation on these summits anyhow, and now we know that these areas are also climate change refugia and will be really important refugia for species like three-toothed cinquefoil. So there's a lot of methods for how do you restore in a changing climate, but a lot of these ideas haven't been tested empirically.
I think we have historically managed a lot with the mindset, the paradigm that things are pretty stable, that we can look to the past as a guideline for how we should manage things, and that's just blown out of the water with climate change. And we have to adapt our management paradigm.
The climate is changing really fast. So over the past 100 years, we've lost about 1 out of every 6 of the plant species, and our bird community has changed, our insect community has changed, our growing season is much longer. So the park is already a very different place, and the pace of change is just speeding up. Historically, we would have taken an area like Cadillac and tried to restore it to conditions where it was in the past, but that's not possible anymore. And so we're having to figure out how do we restore an area to conditions that will be appropriate for future climates.
By implementing multiple methods simultaneously, we hedge our bets against the uncertainties of climate change. This Common Garden experiment is an experiment where we're growing individuals from 31 different locations throughout New England, including individuals that were collected right here on Cadillac Mountain. So one of the really useful ways that this experiment is good for understanding refugia is that we have a common garden on the summit of Cadillac Mountain, where we are right now, and we have one at the base of Cadillac Mountain. And so the one on the summit represents the climate that the plants are currently experiencing. The one at the base represents a climate that's about 2 degrees Celsius warmer. So that's what we might expect 30 years from now. There has been refugia models for this species that have shown that 98% of the locations that are predicted to be suitable for the species now will become unsuitable for the species in the future. And so it makes it for a really good candidate for understanding our refugia and testing different climate change adaptation strategies with this species.
And that's where all of this work started. In fact, it was by the managers saying, hey, this weird concept from the research literature, could we use it? We are doing that work around the region and around the country, but especially the Northeast Climate Adaptation Science Center. And so we created this climate change refugia conservation cycle, this process of working together, managers and researchers, that started from this moment of being in the mountains on the landscape, but really was initiated by managers asking the researchers to pay a little more attention to what's happening on the ground.